Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twins Latest. I'm Sam Calder, and I'm thrilled to be talking some Twins baseball with you guys today. But let's not waste any time. Let's cut right to the chase because there is something pretty important that we got to start today's video with. Ryan Jeffers, Twins starting catcher, is rumored to be a trade target for one specific team, and that team would be the Philadelphia Phillies. These teams made a couple of trades at last year's trade deadline. Johan Duran and Harrison Bader were moved over to Philadelphia. And this time around, the Twins are rumored to be shopping Ryan Jeffers potentially. Jeffers will be 29 years old in June. He signed a 1 year, $6.7 million deal earlier this month to avoid arbitration. He hit 266 across 406 at-bats in 2025. He destroys left-handed pitching in particular. He hit 313 with a 462 on-base percentage in 145 plate appearances against left-handed pitchers. However, we have seen his power numbers start to slide over the past couple seasons. According to his StatCast page, he had the worst hard hit percentages of his career in the last two seasons. For perspective, from 2020 to 2023, he averaged a barrel percentage of 13.3% per season. So not quite double that 7.4% mark, but pretty close. He will also be an unrestricted free agent after the 2026 season. So in that sense, it would make sense for the Twins to try and deal him before he potentially leaves in free agency and you're stuck with nothing. The Phillies have a very proven, very talented catcher in JT Realmuto, who for the better part of the last decade has honestly been one of the best catchers in the league. But he'll be 35 before the season starts, and his offensive numbers have been declining as he's gotten older. Along with that, he really struggles against left-handed pitching, an area where Ryan Jeffers thrives. Realmuto hit just 213 against lefties last year compared to Jeffers, who hit 313. Jeffers would likely be a platoon option at catcher for the Phillies. He would offer Realmuto some extra rest days and would likely hit in the middle of the Phillies lineup against lefties. As far as Jeffers' trade value, it is hurt a bit by the fact that he's in the last year of his contract, as well as probably being a short-sighted platoon player for Philly. If he was under team control for multiple years and or an everyday player, I think he would be valued a good bit higher, but that's just the role that he would likely be stepping into in Philadelphia. Either way, I think this deal would benefit both sides. So what would a potential return from the Phillies look like? The Twins certainly would not be looking at a top prospect in return by any means, but there are a couple names that I think would benefit Minnesota long term. The first of which is pitcher Ryan Dromboski. He's 22 years old. He was undrafted out of Penn in 2024, but had a really nice year in the minors for the Phillies last year as both a starter and a reliever. He had a 2.69 ERA across low single A and high single A. He had 76 strikeouts, just 24 walks, and only gave up 4 home runs across 80 innings pitched. He made 13 starts, but he also appeared in 9 games as a reliever. So kind of tough to project what he would be, once he gets to the majors. I would probably bet it'd be a full-time reliever, but we did see with Minnesota a guy like Travis Adams last year who did both. So you never know. But Dromboski certainly wouldn't be a flashy return. But he's somebody who, with a little bit of further development, could be a decent middle reliever in a couple of years for Minnesota. The other name I like is outfielder John Spikerman. He was the 100th overall pick in the 2024 MLB draft out of Oklahoma. Looking at his offensive numbers, it's clear he's got a little ways to go before he's an MLB-ready hitter. At high single A last year, he hit just 217 in 106 plate appearances. He did have a 362 on-base percentage. He does draw a lot of walks, but his offensive game certainly needs work. His defense and speed, however, are already MLB ready. He's played very good defense at all 3 outfield positions, and he stole 30 bases in 62 minor league games last year without being thrown out a single time. If the Twins were to land ideally both those guys in a Ryan Jeffers trade, I would be thrilled. Should he stay put, though, I would assume Jeffers is going to start roughly 2 out of every 3 games again in 2026 like he did last year. But I think the Twins should explore trading him, with having a couple of other options at catcher in the minors who saw MLB time last year in Alex Jackson and Johnny Pereda. But not only those two, because the Twins made a roster move this week. They signed free agent catcher Victor Caratini, signed him to a 2-year deal worth $14 million. So he will actually be making more than Ryan Jeffers in 2026. Maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's certainly not $60 million a year like we saw Kyle Tucker just get with the Dodgers, or $42 million a year like we saw Bo Bichette get with the Mets. but I think this is a really good move for Minnesota. Caratini was at one point one of the top catching prospects in baseball. Hasn't necessarily lived up to that level of hype, but he has spent time with 4 major league teams over 9 MLB seasons. So he's very experienced. He started his career with the Cubs, spent 4 years with them, spent a year in San Diego, spent a couple of years with the Brewers, and then most recently was with the Astros in 2024 and 2025. He's a switch hitter, which will provide a lot of lineup versatility. He had 259 with a 324 on base percentage over 386 plate appearances last year. He spent time at catcher and first base with Houston, so even if he's not catching every day, he very well should have a spot in the lineup. He's an above average defender at both of those spots, so we could even be seeing him get the primary first base role, with Josh Bell getting most of his starts at DH potentially. Should the Twins decide to trade Ryan Jeffers, Caratini would very likely be the primary catcher for the Twins, but this signing kind of tells me the Twins intend to keep Jeffers. Caratini is best against right-handed pitching, so we could very well see Jeffers get some more rest against righties in 2026. And while Jeffers' surface level numbers offensively would say that he was better last year, Caratini had the better expected stats, according to StatCast. Caratini had a higher barrel percentage, a higher expected batting average, a higher expected slugging percentage, and a higher xWOBA. xWOBA, for anyone who does not know what that is, stands for expected weighted on base average. It factors in the average quality of contact on balls put in play and how that differs from the actual outcome of every ball that was put in play over the course of a season. Caratini's xWOBA was in the 59th percentile last year, and that would have been the third highest of any Twins player, behind only Byron Buxton and Cody Clemens. According to Roster Resource, Caratini is projected to be the Twins' starting DH and hit 8th. I expect he'll see plenty of opportunities, though, at catcher and first base as well. A lot of that will depend on the other team's starting pitcher, as well as the health status of both Ryan Jeffers and Josh Bell. But this is a versatile veteran who has over 2,200 career Major League plate appearances in his career. He is not going to hit 30 home runs this season. I would bet he'll hit 10 to 15. But if he puts the ball in play like he has and he doesn't strike out much, this is going to be a very, very good addition to this Twins lineup. He'll play above average defense at multiple spots. And for $7 million, I'm a very big fan of this move. And it goes to show that, in my opinion, the biggest strength of this Twins team is its versatility, particularly in the infield, because Minnesota has a plethora of talented options that will fight for playing time in the infield this season. And a lot of that has to do with how they draft. 5 of the Twins' last 7 first-round picks, excluding the compensatory round, have been infielders. The most recent of that group being shortstop Merrick Houston, who they drafted 16th overall out of Wake Forest this past year. We'll talk about him a little bit more here later. But Brooks Lee is the only one of those 7 first-round picks that will start the year in 2026 in the majors. But there's a lot of young talent in this Twins farm system that can make an impact over the next several years. Of course, we saw Luke Keeschall, who will start the year at second base, really break out last year. He's only 23 years old still. But let's look at a couple other infielders that could very well make an impact in 2026. The first of which is Twins' first-round pick in 2024, shortstop Kalen Culpepper. He is the 52nd overall prospect for the major leagues and is the Twins' number 2 prospect. He was drafted 21st overall out of Kansas State in 2024, and he took a huge jump offensively in 2025. He hit 289 with a 375 on base percentage across high single A and double A. He had 20 homers and 25 stolen bases across 113 games. So the power and speed have certainly been there. And something that I think plays a huge factor in the development of young players that really doesn't get talked about a lot is just the amount of plate appearances that they get. A lot of minor league guys don't get more than 250 to 300 plate appearances in a year in the minors due to a shorter season, injury struggles, and or just a crowded farm system. But Kalen Culpepper has 629 professional plate appearances thus far since being drafted, and I think that's part of the reason we saw such a big jump from him last year. I expect him to start the year in Double A, but I also expect him to get promoted to Triple A sooner rather than later. And he's a guy who can play second base, third base, or shortstop. So we could very, very well see him, at multiple spots in the majors should Royce Lewis or Luke Keeschall get hurt again. But he's a name I'm very, very excited about as a future piece of this infield, as well as potentially we could see somebody we could see in 2026. One of the other names to know is first baseman Aaron Sabato. He was the Twins' first round pick in 2020. He's going to be 27 this year, which is not ideal for a first baseman who hasn't made it to the majors yet, but there's reasons for optimism. He's improved every year of his career, and last year he finally got to AAA. He hit 245 with 14 home runs in 65 games there. Nothing spectacular, but he was amazing at AA. He hit 309 with 20 extra base hits in 39 games. This will definitely be a make or break year for him, in my opinion. For a first baseman who was drafted in the first round out of college, frankly, it's not encouraging that he hasn't gotten called up yet. But should he have a good start to the year at AAA, this is a team in the Twins where first base is not exactly the strongest position. So I'm going to be optimistic. I'm going to say that we will see Aaron Sabato in the majors in 2020. But as far as some other guys, infield, outfield alike, that we could see in 2026, the first of which has to be the Twins' number one prospect and a top 10 prospect in all of baseball, Walker Jenkins. He was the Twins' first round pick in 2023. Last year, as a 20-year-old, he made it all the way to AAA, which that is not normal for a 20-year-old to do. The stats don't jump off the page there, but it was only 101 plate appearances, and it's not like he was bad. I mean, he hit 242 with a 324 on base percentage, along with 9 extra base hits and 4 stolen bases across those 101 plate appearances. Not bad for somebody who can't even buy himself a beer yet. He spent most of the year at AA, where he was utterly fantastic. He hit 310 with a 426 on base percentage. Injuries have really been his only Achilles heel, that is pun fully intended. He only played in 84 games last year, but those 84 games were extremely promising. On the year as a whole, he hit 286 with a 399 on base percentage, 29 extra base hits, and 17 stolen bases. I do want to see him add more power to his game, but he's got the size to do it at 6'3", 210 pounds, and I think that will come as he only gets stronger and more experienced. But despite the fact that he's only going to be 21 this year, I think he gets a shot in the majors. It'll probably be towards the back half of the season, if I were to guess, and it's important to temper your expectations right away. I mean, it is very, very rare that a 21-year-old just immediately breaks out and becomes a superstar right away. Not expecting that to happen, but the future is very, very bright for that young man. Another outfielder that I think we will see in the majors in 2026 is Emmanuel Rodriguez. He is the Twins' number 4 prospect and the 69th overall prospect in all of baseball. Health has been a struggle for him as well. He played in just 65 games last year, 47 games in 2024. Last year, he spent most of the season at AAA and showed a lot of promise. He hit 258, but had an on-base percentage of 429. He's not going to hit 30 home runs, but he'll get on base and can very easily steal 20 to 30 bases. He does have some very, very serious strikeout concerns. He had a strikeout percentage of 31.8% in those 65 games. A league average strikeout rate at the major league level is right around 18%. So we're going to need to see some serious improvement in the swing and miss department before he is truly MLB ready. But the potential is undoubtedly there. And should we see some improved contact early in 2026, I would expect to see him sooner than later at the major league level. Another name that I don't know we will necessarily see in 2026, but a name to definitely know for the future is a guy who I briefly mentioned earlier. That is Twins 2025 first-round pick Merrick Houston. Drafted 16th overall out of Wake Forest. Houston saw action at low A and high A. He dominated low A, earning him a promotion pretty early on, but he hit just 152 across 51 plate appearances at high A. I'm not worried. I mean, he put the ball in play, and he's had very good plate discipline going back to his time at college. What I really want to see is how his power and speed will translate from college to the majors, to the minors. Last year at Wake Forest, he had 29 extra base hits and 19 stolen bases in 61 games. And albeit it was a very, very small minor league sample size, just 110 plate appearances, but he had only 6 extra base hits. Only one of those was a home run. He did steal 7 bases, so I'm not as concerned about the speed, but I would like to see some more pop in his bat this year, as he ideally makes the jump to AA relatively early on in the season. And then the last name to know is catcher Eduardo Tate. He is the Twins' number 3 prospect, the 57th overall prospect. He's only 19 years old, so he's still got 2 to 3 years to go if all goes well. but it's easy to see reasons to be optimistic for this young man. In 37 games at high A, he hit 259 with 16 extra base hits in 37 games. Overall on the season, he had 47 extra base hits in 112 minor league games. Similar to what I said with Kalen Culpepper, getting minor league at bats and staying on the field is a great thing for the young guys. Tate has 977 minor league plate appearances in his career, and he's not even 20 years old yet. There are certainly some things that he can improve on. I would love to see his on-base percentage tick up. It was at just 311 last year. If we can see that number increase to, 340, I think we'll see him at Double-A sooner rather than later in 2026. But Tate is absolutely on the right trajectory, and if he continues to develop, we could see him as the Twins catcher every day in just a matter of years. So I think that's all I've got for today. If you guys enjoyed the very first episode of Twins Latest, please let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and like the episode. If you've got anything you want me to comment on Twins related in future episodes, please let me know in the comments as well. But until next time,